It feels weird to ask what's good, internet, like I usually do, considering in 2020, not a whole lot is good, but I'm here, internet. I am your host, Attacks, like this is my WrestleMania predictions video, and in a weird year, we have the weirdest WrestleMania in history. It is too big for one night. There are 16 matches on the card. Not all of them have a good story to them. We have 16 matches to predict in this video. So without further ado, let's get started. I don't know what's in the pre-show. I don't know if we're going to have a pre-show. All I know is it's empty arena all the way for Saturday and Sunday at WrestleMania this year. So let's begin with Elias and King Corbin. And this has been kind of a thing I thought was going to end up in their Battle Royal, but they aren't having any Battle Royals on this Mania. So therefore, I say don't bet against King Corbin at WrestleMania. He has a pretty good track record of winning, I think, at Mania. Or at least he won last year. He retired Kurt Angle, and they seem pretty high on him as a heel. So why not have King Corbin win this match? So, the match that I think has the least amount of anything in terms of a story to latch onto has been Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. Like, kind of out of nowhere, kind of, hey man, get him on the card for something. They aren't going to be in the Battle Royal, so put him somewhere for something. And that match is happening, so I say, why derail the push of Aleister Black and have that continue? Aleister Black wins that match. I see no reason why he would not win that match, even if Lana might be ringside lurking somewhere, because she's sure not going to be filming a movie right now, because everything is, shut down. The match that I'm looking forward to the most, or I was, when there was going to be a crowd involved the most, would have been Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. And there were a bunch of different ways you could have got to this match, right? And it ends up being a one-on-one encounter with Mandy Rose at ringside. Man, you could have had Mandy as a referee for this match, but no, she's gonna be ringside apparently, or that's the plan. I don't know. Again, until they air this thing, a lot of these things are kind of up in the air in terms of what's happening for matches. So, regardless, the end result for most matches at Mania, is the culmination of your story before you move on to new stories at the new start of a calendar wrestling year, which is, the day after Mania. Whatever, right? So, in front of 80,000 fans, the logical story is that Mandy realizes that she got screwed over by Sonya and Tucker, or some combination of those two, conspiring, and the angle ends with a kiss from Mandy to Otis in the center of the ring with a bunch of cheering fans going, yes, yes, yes. That's not going to happen. So, do I still think Otis will win? Maybe. Do I still think Mandy will realize what's going to happen here? Maybe. But the empty arena part of this equation, the lack of any crowd in this arena equation, means that I think some of these payoffs might have to wait until, say, a SummerSlam, if we have a proper SummerSlam in August. That's still up in the air. So, I'm not sure how to predict, do I predict what I think should have happened in front of a crowd, or what's actually going to happen here on the show on Saturday and Sunday? I'll still say Otis wins. But honestly, up in the air, man. Completely up in the air. Now, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are having a one-on-one match with no stipulations, I don't think. I don't know. I'm reading off of WWE.com on a Friday morning, right? So clearly, some things we know are going to change come SmackDown. We know, right? But I'm calling what I have here on the paper, and it is Owens and Rollins one-on-one. I know one half of the AOP has a injury. I think Buddy is under quarantine. So just a actual straight-up one-on-one match. Logically, you would think Kevin Owens would win this exchange between this long-standing heel versus face thing. The face should go over at the grandest stage of them all, but it's not the grandest stage of them all. So, again, hard to call, because they can make these things change because of not having a crowd. If there is no giant crowd pop, then why have the face win? Because you aren't going to get that satisfaction of that crowd pop for that event. Now, moving on to some tag team stuff, we have the women's tag team champions, Asuka and Kairi, Kabuki Warriors, fighting Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. And this one has had a little bit of a build, not, not tremendous, but something in the background. And whether or not they have those belts go to SmackDown, they're supposed to be defendant on all brands, right? And you don't really have that many other women's tag teams. Where are the Iconics? They've been MIA for a bit here. So I say, why not? Belts change hands, Alexa and Nikki champs again. I think they were champs before, yeah. I'm pretty sure. And big ending from Big E on the ladder. Good God almighty. Murdered him. So yeah, that was that. Now, over on Raw, your tag team champions are the Street Profits, and they're fighting the ramshackle makeshift tag team that was supposed to be Andrade and Angel Garza, who were also supposed to be in the U.S. title hunt, but things happened. So now it is Austin Theory and Angel Garza, and I don't think these belts change hands. I think that is an easy retain for the Street Profits, without a doubt. So that one, again, there's no real story here, right? I can't latch on to what's been happening on your TV program, because not a whole lot's been happening on your TV programs, because everything is locked down, and we have these very limited shows they've been running in the PC. Now, on the other side, the match that, as of Friday morning, is still being advertised as Miz and Morrison, hey, ho ho, your SmackDown Tag Team Champions, facing the Usos and the New Day Triple Threat Ladder Match. That match, as we've heard on the dirt sheets, is not happening. Had that match happened as intended, I would say that Miz and Morrison probably still end up retaining those titles here, because why not? But the word now is it's going to be Morrison versus one of the Usos in a ladder match for nothing, I think. At that point, why would you have a ladder match without having something above the ring to grab? It's kind of the whole point of a ladder match. So if it's one-on-one, and again, we don't know the actual details here because of the closed set taping nature of how they filmed WrestleMania this year, it's a nightmare. But even then, if it's Morrison versus one of the Usos, Morrison wins, because he was also a singles competitor for so long, and he is good at that. Moving on, we have Sami Zayn, the Great Liberator, your Intercontinental Champion, defending against Daniel Bryan. I foresee all kinds of shenanigans in this match, with the involvement, perhaps, of Cesaro, Nakamura, and Gulak. And you might think that would stack the deck in Sami's favor, and it does. So I'm calling for Sami to retain here, and perhaps have this drawn out a little bit longer, and build towards a match where it has to be a one-on-one. Right now, with outside interference, the favor is in Sami Zayn's corner, so have him retain here in his first defense after defeating Braun Strowman for that belt. And we'll get to Braun here in a little bit. Don't you worry, boy howdy. So, after that, we have your NXT Women's Championship. And that is Rhea Ripley versus the Queen, Charlotte Flair. And this match is interesting. It is the first time we've had someone who won the Royal Rumble challenge for an NXT title, putting that third brand on that same pedestal as Raw and SmackDown. And that's interesting, but I somehow, at this juncture, I don't see having to have Charlotte go back down to NXT for any length of time. Therefore, if they're building Rhea as this hot new star, then have her beat the Queen at WrestleMania. That makes sense. Plus, if you consider what might happen later on in the evening with the Raw Women's title, it'd make more sense to have her stay on Raw to challenge for that belt at some point in 2020. If wrestling keeps happening in 2020, we don't know. Hard to call, right? But that brings us, and there's still like one pip here. Like, what is happening? That brings us to your SmackDown Women's title, which is your champion, Bayley, versus Sasha Banks, versus Lacey Evans, versus Naomi, versus Tamina in a 5-women's elimination match for SmackDown. Dana Brooke, under quarantine, not in the match anymore. It happens, right? So, that being said, the story here would be the final 2 are going to end up as Sasha and Bayley. And that story should run up until, say, SummerSlam for a big, hot, one-on-one matchup. Now, does that turn Sasha face? I would assume so, right? But the main question is, does Sasha win the belt here, or do they hold off until SummerSlam and have that chase until SummerSlam? That makes more sense. The money is in the chase. So Bayley retains here, hitting that Bayley to belly on Sasha, who then gets, mad about it, and that builds towards your match at SummerSlam. In theory. So there was that. But the flip side of that is the man Becky Lynch defending against Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania for that Raw Women's Championship. And this one, I think, has to be Baszler. As much as perhaps Vince is not high on Baszler, the story here makes sense that Becky got too big for her britches. She is just too high on her own supply, and that gives her that weakness that she thinks she's invincible, but she's not. So, new Raw Women's Champion, Shayna Baszler. Now, moving into our final singles matches here for the evening. We have Edge versus Randy Orton. The first singles match for Edge in 9 years to nobody. To no fans. To no crowd reaction. That has to suck, man. After 9 years, granted, obviously an amazing moment at the Rumble, but then, hey man, it's WrestleMania. It's what you build towards, and you've got nothing. So, Edge versus Randy Orton, last man standing. I don't think you bring back Edge after 9 years to have him lose at Mania to Randy Orton. Like, you could, but why would you? So, Edge wins that match for some crazy reason, some crazy spear through something, last man standing. Now, we get into the weird stuff here. We get into the bizarre, and we have John Cena versus The Fiend in a Firefly Funhouse match. I know what you're asking, what everyone is asking. What is that? When they booked the House of Horrors, they had the name first. They didn't know what kind of match that was. And so, again, they got the name here. They booked the match. They're going to film it off-site, not in a ring, apparently. Kofi, what are you doing? You had the shot. As Randy would say, stupid, stupid, stupid. So, yeah, John Cena versus The Fiend. Again, the whole point here should be, hopefully, after that embarrassing loss to Goldberg, putting The Fiend back over strong and beating John Cena, finishing that, 6-year storyline, whatever, getting his vengeance against John Cena, who again, John Cena not sticking around. Although honestly, with the entire movie industry shut down, hey John Cena, stick around a little while. I want to see R-Truth get pinned by John Cena for that 24/7 title, his childhood hero. I want that to happen, so John, please, stick around. Do some wrestling. So, there is that. So yes, Fiendy goes over. Now, speaking of confusing matches that we don't know what the deal is here and what they are, we have The Undertaker facing off against the phenomenal AJ Styles. It is Phenom versus Phenomenal, and they're in a boneyard match. So again, not filming it in a ring, which hopefully will minimize Old Man Taker here, which is kind of the whole basis of this whole thing. Minimizing Old Man, broken down Mark Calloway, right? And keeping the mystique of Taker. I would imagine we would see, perhaps, Michelle McCool giving the Faith Breaker to AJ Styles. That should happen. That could happen. That might happen. And the club may interfere here in some way. It should be, hopefully spooky and spectacular. And look, man, it's a boneyard match. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like it favors the dead man. So you don't bet against the dead man usually in his kind of gimmick match. So, you know, casket match, buried alive. I would imagine that Taker wins this match. Does he need to? No. But, you know, at some point you go, what's the best choice here? And I think it is Taker winning this match. So then we have your Universal title, currently held by Old Man Goldberg, and was supposed to fight Roman Reigns. It was supposed to be spear versus spear. And had that match taken place, I would have said Roman Reigns all the way, WrestleMania, giant crowd, does his thing, and wins the match. However, as we have heard, Roman Reigns is not going to be here on the show. And he is supposedly, and we'll find out tonight on SmackDown, replaced by Braun Strowman. And that changes the equation. I don't think they're going to put the belt on Braun Strowman, right? Even if Goldberg, nice Morrison, even if Goldberg is a part-timer, I don't think they're going to say, hey man, Braun Strowman, who just lost the IC belt in the mid-card, here you go, here's the main belt on some... I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Goldberg retains here, but either way, no matter who walks out of Mania as the champion, I think your story now runs to SummerSlam, hopefully in Boston in front of a crowd, and we have Roman winning that belt there at SummerSlam. I think that's kind of the next eventual bit of business. And then your main event on one of these nights, I would assume, is going to be the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar, your WWE Champion, taking on the Scottish psychopath Drew McIntyre. Will it be a 3-2-1 Claymore kick to Brock Lesnar, or will Brock reign supreme for reasons that don't really matter? I think even though you're not going to have a crowd here, even though that crowning, defining moment of McIntyre's story will be in front of an empty arena, I still think he beats Brock Lesnar and becomes your WWE Champion, because at least one of these shows should have a champion who's on the show full-time, even if the show itself is not really happening full-time anymore. Like, you got these kind of very small shows with no crowd and not having full matches and having full shows on your TV. Even that, I still think you give Drew his crowning achievement at WrestleMania, because, come on, please, do that. I'm not saying you can't drag it out, right? Because you could. But at this juncture, they've had this angle running since the Rumble, and I think it's very important to hopefully finish things and then start fresh on the Monday on the Raw with Drew as champion. And yeah, it sucks. You're not going to have Drew coming out on his first Raw with the belt to adoring fans who are loving it. Like, that sucks, clearly. But in the interest of at least one of your major belts changing hands, I don't think it'll be Goldberg losing. So yes, Brock should lose here and have a new champion. And that is the weirdest WrestleMania of any of our lifetimes that we will ever see here. And it's too big for one night. And it's going to be just absolutely bizarre. And I think it's also crazy. This match went the entire predictions video, and nobody has won the match yet. Nobody has gotten that title yet off of the ladder, but that's how it goes sometimes here in 2K20. So, I'm Attack Slug. I'm going to watch both nights of WrestleMania. I hope you do too, I guess, if you want. So, I'll see you next time, right here. More videos on this channel. And I'm out. Miz and Morrison. Hey, hey. Ho, ho.